Good morning. Welcome to Morning Oasis. I'm going to give it a second while I turn off my phone. Turn off the volume. And let you guys come in. Good morning. Let's see. I actually, somebody sent me a message this morning about this galaxy appearing over, orbiting our own galaxy that we've never noticed before. I thought that was pretty cool. I look forward to seeing what any of you guys have to say about that. Today's one of those shows where I plan on winging it. It's an interesting day, actually. It's a very interesting day. We'll see what happens today. Honestly, I'm kind of curious, honestly. Today's the 22nd of February. It is Wednesday, I believe. And yeah, I've actually spent the morning watching the 13th, the movie, documentary. And, you know, I don't do a lot of talk about political issues or get too involved in really controversial topics because that controversy is a part of that. It's part of the system that keeps us fighting with each other and rejecting each other. So I tend to stay out of it. However, I feel kind of compelled to participate in a certain conversation, and I want to use my white privilege to discuss a topic that we don't talk about very much as white people, because frankly we have the luxury of not having to. Good morning, good afternoon, Jesse. So I'm going to do something a little bit different with you guys today. One of my favorite authors of all time is Dr. Seuss. I know that sounds silly and ridiculous. Good morning, now, Chalia. I think it's Chalia. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Yes, there are openings for a card pull, Justine, and that's perfect for you to ask. So we'll do card pulls first, and then we'll move into the discussion. And some of you may not like what I have to say, and some of you may like what I have to say, and some of you may agree, and some of you may not. But what we're going to do is I'm going to read you a shorter story, not too terribly long, Dr. Seuss story that is relevant to what I want to talk about today. Yeah, exactly. So his books are all very relevant. Justine Ganesh wants to talk to you. My son, I remember, you know, we did a lot of reading of Dr. Seuss when he was little. Oh, I thought I had the right book, but I don't. I'll be right back. There it is. Okay. Now I have the right book. We did a lot of reading. Oh yeah, Chalia, you can totally do that. Of Dr. Seuss when my son was a boy. His favorite book was The Lorax, which was actually the one that I had right here that I was surprised to have. And I remember this one day we were driving through the forest, and we were driving through the coastal mountains, and we came upon a clear cutting. And he was probably only like 3, you know, and he looked out the window and he said, Mommy, look, the Lorax is gone. And I just started crying. I was like, I know, honey, he's gone. It's so sad that he's gone. And he was just like, why, you know. So I think that Dr. Seuss has been opening our hearts and opening our minds about these topics for a long time. But we'll get into that. So let's see. First, Justine. Hop on Pop. I liked Hop on Pop, but you know, Fox and Socks is way better. Justine. Okay, you got Innocence from Ganesh. Innocence. one of the things that Ganesh embodies above the other pantheon was that we know of his boyhood, and he had this purity, this innocence. He was willing to die in order to protect his mother. And he didn't care who it was that he was protecting her from. He just knew it was his job. And when he was re-headed by his father, he had this innocence, this purity, this joy. And it allowed others to experience that innocence and joy through him. And it's one of the reasons that he is celebrated throughout India. I mean, people love Ganesh. I mean, he is one of those gods that is just beloved. And it's because of that innocence. So Justine, I think it's time. What I'm hearing is that you've robbed yourself of your allowance of innocence. I'm hearing that also, and perhaps this is for me as well, it's always for me as well. When we're people like us, where we just find love and joy in others, when we experience others and we experience that joy and we're just like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then somebody else is like, how can you stand that person? We don't understand where they're coming from. Even if that person harmed others, they don't really tend to harm us in that same way. Or if they do, we understand that it's a service to us that they're doing. And so I think Ganesh is beckoning you to stop judging yourself for your innocence and allow your innocence to be innocent, right? It's not naivete, it's innocence. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing for us all. All right, so we've got our 3 card pulls. Chalia, you're next. Ganesh, no. All right, so the Messenger Oracle is interested in talking with you, and that's by Raven Felon. Oh, that's so funny. I was just working with my Earth Gaia deck a little bit ago and was shocked to... I thought her name was Raven Felon, but it's actually a different way of spelling Raven and a different last name. That's funny. I didn't realize. I'm like, where did I get that name from? Good morning, Andrea. Okay, so Chalia, this one's for you. Respect your boundaries. So perhaps you've been being called to reinforce boundaries with others. But when that happens, it's usually because we have not put in a priority for ourselves about our own boundaries. You know, it's easy for us to blame others for our boundaries or our lack thereof. It's easy for us to become angry or have the finger and the focus external about a violation of boundaries. But the truth is, we're the ones who enforce them. We're the ones who teach others what it is to respect our boundaries just by the very act of believing our boundaries are of value and respecting them ourselves. You know, I remember once with my husband, we were in this disagreement, and I was really upset with him. I felt like he had violated this obvious, easy to see boundary with me that was not obvious at all because I had never actually told him my boundary. I just figured it was obvious because it's an American obvious, and he's Indian. There's a completely different level of obvious and boundaries, you know. Indian culture is more frank, more curious. They ask questions, and questions that American culture is like, you don't ask that. You don't talk about that. We have a lot of, you don't talk about that here, and it's different there. So yeah, when we find that our boundaries are being disrespected, it's not time for us to enforce them with others. It's time for us to enforce them with ourselves and speak them truly and clearly. So I'm getting that that's the message coming through to you, is some support in your boundaries. And the last card pull was for Gurdeep, I believe. Yes. Let's see, what cards do we want to pull for him? The goddesses want to talk to you, Gurdeep. Looks like some feminine energy to support you. Let's see what they had to say. They haven't come out for a little while, have they? I can't remember. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, when we, I was just talking about that last night with my friend, Hannah Neal, about how we have to learn to stop sacrificing ourselves, that we also get to be one of the others that we do for. It's a hard lesson for empaths to learn, because it's kind of where we operate from, is this external focus on what the environment is and how can we support it, how can we help it. And this is perfect. This is Amaterasu. She's a Japanese goddess, and she asks us to look to our inner beauty, to release our focus on that external and to come into the inner beauty, which is what we were just talking about. Releasing the external and recognizing that inside of us is everything that we need, all of the joy, all of the beauty, all of the wisdom, all of the power. Right before coming on, I had a woman contact me and ask me for healing support, and asked me to put out a call for healing support. Now, it's not something I actually encourage in the Healing Pathwalker group to call for that, in the sense of, I believe that we should put it forward. We show up and we're like, yeah, I'm struggling with this. And others can send support if they choose to, send that love. Now, I feel a lot differently about that when it comes to animals and also children, although I don't think I actually asked for support with SFAS, though you all were beautiful and loving and supportive. What it brings to mind is that our healing is ours to do. As our third density consciousness, that's what we're here to do, is to learn that we are the creator of our lives, and that what we need to heal is actually the perfect experience for us to understand and learn and grow from. And that's what I've been telling my son as far as his hand, and it's one of the reasons I actually don't do much work on him. He doesn't want it, for one. And for two, he has to learn that his hand is of value, that this body is critical for him, how he needs it, how he's planning to use it. And I have watched many, many groups become overrun with requests for healing, with and it becomes that external focus, and it's a very delicate balance. It's one of the reasons, and this is also what we were talking about last night. Hannah Neal and I both started in this journey of doing this kind of work, and we have unique gifts, as every one of us do. But the uniqueness is not because others aren't capable of doing what we're doing. It's because we believe that we are capable, and we believe that all are capable. And it's the whole reason why I started doing this morning Oasis. I teach you by setting an example of what it is to heal yourself, how to look at yourself. I'm not doing that to you guys. I create space, I create support, and there are, we're like this great big multi-combination lock. And we have all these little keyholes in us, and each one of us has a key. And so each one of us can contribute a unique unlocking. That's a very different thing than creating all over healing work. And it's one of the reasons that healers become so discredited in our communities, is because once we present ourselves as, I'm going to fix you, I'm going to repair you, I'm going to fix the problem that you have, then what happens is that person doesn't believe they're capable of doing it for themselves, and inevitably the healings fail. And once the healings fail, they're still externally focused, so they believe it's because the healer was a charlatan, or they believe that the healer wasn't capable. Now, her and I both talk about this. There's times where we will do work on somebody, perhaps someone's heart is, for instance, is completely closed up. And they don't even know what it is to experience another way of having the heart. So yes, we will open up that heart chakra. We attune the heart chakra. She uses what she calls chi needles to kind of pin it into place for a temporary period of time. But we both communicate extremely clearly to that person that we're working with in the session that this is only a temporary transition in order for you and your energy body to know what this is, to experience the space. And then it becomes up to you to recreate that, to make that a function of your energy field, to be operating from the heart chakra, to be using the heart chakra. We can't make that happen for you. And too often, especially in our culture right now, where we go to the doctor and we expect they're going to fix something, and we come away and we're disappointed because they just told us what we already knew, and they gave us a pill that had all these side effects that then we need to go back to the doctor to deal with because now we have these side effects from it. The same is true with healing work. If somebody else is doing healing work on you, you are subjected to their filters. You're subjected to where their limitations are, to what their beliefs are. You have no idea what's in the subconscious of that person, what's coming through with that energy, and it's not yours. And so if it's not yours, it's not going to stick. It's not authentic. It's not going to be a part of you. It's going to be something that is like a clothing that you put on and then take off again. And, so I told her, I said, I will offer you support in love, and I hope that you can find the space with which in yourself to do that healing. For myself, it is working with other people that inspires me and shows me the parts of myself that are hidden away that I can't see. And so it becomes a service to others as well as a service to self, to do the connection work, to do that one-on-one work. Siska, no worries. Go have your session. It's awesome. I'm not concerned. I will see you later. Please don't feel bad. Nobody feel bad if they have to miss the show or leave or come in late. This is here for you as much as it is for me. And so, what that brought to mind, and this is what I started with and opened with talking about, with how I would like to use my own privilege to speak on something that is an uncomfortable topic. And but we're going to start with a Dr. Seuss story, and then I'll lead into that. I hope you guys like it. It's called The Sneetches, okay? The Sneetches. So, I'll try to read so that we can both all see it. Okay, I'll go like this. So that works. Now, the Starbelly Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain belly Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big, they really were so small. You might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. But because they had stars, all the Starbelly Sneetches would brag. We're the best kind of Sneetches on the beaches. With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they'd snort. They'll have nothing to do with the plain belly sort. And whenever they met some when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the Starbelly children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in on the game? No, not at all. You could only play if your bellies had stars, and the plain belly children had none upon theirs. When the Starbelly Sneetches had Frankfurter roasts, or picnics, or parties, or marshmallow toasts, they never invited the plain belly Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that is how they treated them year after year. Then one day, it seems, while the plain belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. "My friends," he announced, in a voice clear and clean, "my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles, I've heard you're unhappy, but I can fix that, I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed, and my work is 100% guaranteed. Then quickly, Sylvester McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine. He said, "You want stars like a Starbelly Sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard." So they clambered inside, and then the big machine roared. It knocked and it blonked and it jerked and it burked and it bopped them about, but the thing really worked. When the plain belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon theirs. And then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start. "We're exactly like you. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties. And now we can go to your Frankfurter parties." "Good grief," groaned the ones who had stars at the first. "We're still the best Sneetches, and they are the worst. But now how in the world will we know?" They all frowned. "If which kind is what, or the other way round?" Then up came McBean with a very sly wink. He said, "Things are not quite as bad as you think. That is perfectly true. You don't know who is who, but come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneetches on beaches, and all it will cost you is $10 eaches. Belly stars are no longer in style. What you need is a trip through my star-off machine. This wondrous contraption will take off your stars, so you won't look like Sneetches who have them on theirs." And that handy machine worked very precisely, removing all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. Then with snoots in the air they paraded about, and they opened their beaks and they let out a shout. "We know who is who, now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are Sneetches without." Then of course those with stars all got frightfully mad. To be wearing a star now was frightfully bad. Then of course old Sylvester McMonkey McBean invited them into his star-off machine. Then, of course, from then on, as you probably guess, things really got into a horrible mess. All the rest of that day, on those wild screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up Sneetches. Off again, on again, in again, out again. Through the machine they raced round and about again, clanging their stars every minute or two. They kept paying money, they kept running through, until neither the plain nor the starbellies knew whether this one was that one, or that one was this one, or which one was what one, or what one was who. Then with every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up and he went. And he laughed as he drove in his car up the beach. "They never will learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch." But McBean was quite wrong. I'm quite happy to say that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day. The day that they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches, and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day all the Sneetches forgot about stars, and whether or not they had one upon theirs. Right after it is the Zacks, which is another great story, and I see that a lot of you love that story. It's one of my favorite stories. It's actually one of my favorite of all time stories. I used to read it often in the library to the kids. Yeah, exactly. The elitism. That's kind of where I'm going with this, Jessie. So one of the things that we forget in our communities and in our culture is we believe ourselves always to have the star and the others to not. we have this operational belief of a separation between each other. And when that occurs, when we believe ourselves to be in any way separate from anyone else, no matter what the reason is, whether it's a star in their belly or bigotry in their mouth or resentment in their soul, once we believe ourselves to be better than, we are opening a pathway for a Sylvester McMonkey McBean to come and create this machine. And it's a really dangerous and slippery slope. I was talking with my friend last night, and she's Guatemalan, born and raised here, and she was telling me about how she was attempting to participate in the Women's Rights March during the protests that were happening around the inauguration. And she told me something that was really heartbreaking to hear, which is that the white women majority of that protest in Portland is Whitelandia. Has a very low percentage of population of other ethnicities and races. And it is a very white community with white values, with white belief systems, with a lot of liberal bias, where people believe themselves to be above and elite over other groups and other communities. And they have this belief that because they are in the know, because they see the truth, that they are not as much subjecting, as much entitled, as privileged, as anyone else. And, for instance, one just really simple, really small analogy that might piss some people off, and frankly I don't care, is the whole concept around bikes. Portland spends thousands and thousands of dollars on bike lanes, bike boulevards, on creating bike bridges, we still have communities that are completely impoverished. We have run out, used to have North Portland was the black community. It was considered to be an area that was cast off by white Portlanders. We still have red line districts in Portland on our books. There are still laws that say that black people can't purchase property a few blocks away from where I live. It's not enforced anymore, but the laws are still there. They didn't change them at all. And, I live in a mixed race family. My husband is brown, my son identifies as a brown man. And he started to identify at that at 6 years old, in elementary school, in kindergarten, through a harmless project of a self-portrait where they made a big deal about mixing their skin tones so that you could have your skin tone represented. Now, we think, we're being inclusive. Look, we're recognizing it's not all one skin tone. It's such a great idea. Well, my son walked away from there going, Mom, how come people made fun of me for making my skin tone brown? Why is that wrong? And this is a school that prides itself on being an anti-bullying, anti-discrimination, racial equity school. And it's the reason I participated at the school so much, and it's the reason I read that story every single year on Dr. Seuss Day or whenever I had reading time. This is a problem that we as the white majority, which we're really hardly even the majority anymore if you look at a national population level, must address. And our white fragility must be broken. If we put a fragile sticker on us and tell everyone else to handle us with care, we're asking everyone to accept our own bigotry and racism. And, my friend was telling me about how at the Women's March, that black women speakers, Native American women speakers, Hispanic speakers, women speakers, were denied the platform. And they were told, this isn't about race. Quit making it about race. Quit bringing your racial problems into this. This is about gender. This is about women. And it's the same thing that we did in the voting privilege, in the women's suffrage movement. When we wanted numbers, we welcomed the black women into the suffrage movement. But once we wanted to be taken seriously, we rejected them. And this is the reason that the ACLU has pulled out of a lot of this stuff, is because we're now that the white voice is being threatened in some way, our rights are being impinged upon. We don't want to make it be about race. Don't make it about race. It is about race, people. It's about race. It's about equity. It's about elitism. And these things are still in our communities. And if you believe that you are not a part of it, and you're not actively speaking about it, and you're not actively working towards it, then what are you actually doing here? You are participating. It's the participation through silence. And to know that we still at this day, at this time in our lives, at this space in our awareness and understanding, that we're still quibbling and fighting over these issues and dividing ourselves from each other, when everything around us is teaching us this unity, that we must come together, that we must see each other. It doesn't matter if you have a star on your belly or not. You're still a Sneetch. And that's the struggle that I'm in right now. I'm just really in this struggle. It's a hard one for me. And it's hard for me to understand exactly how to address it as a healer, as an energy worker, as a spiritual teacher, whatever you want to call it. I'm feeling a lot more like energetic artisan, How do we address that in ourselves? Because we can't look to the outside and say, they are so racist. They're the ones creating the problems. It brings to mind also what's popping into my mind is people are really up in arms right now about immigration and about refugee statuses and bringing refugees in. And I watch and observe the people who are making these protests and these comments, and I've never once seen them socializing or incorporating any of the refugees that we have in our own community here in Portland. I see the Somalian refugees as being isolated. They are excluded. I watch them at Winco in the grocery store. I watch the white people rejecting them and looking at them funny when they're talking or when their children are behaving in a way that for them is culturally appropriate, for us is not. There's no allowance for the cultural differences that occur. White communities have an expectation of quiet. That is what respect is, to not impose your volume on us, but go into a sports bar and you are inundated with their noise. So they have their permission spaces, but we don't have any permission around it. I have heard so many people complaining about, I had an Indian friend who lived in this complex and he was constantly being reported for too much noise, from the smell from their cooking, all these things. And so if we're not aware of what the climate of our environment is actually like for people that are not in the majority, and I say majority loosely because really we're barely the majority anymore, then we are participating. We're taking advantage. We're capitalizing on this. For instance, right now we have the Standing Rock thing going on, and they're ejecting the people from there. They're just bulldozing the camp and arresting and removing people. And we can get really upset and angry about that, and I am very disheartened by it. However, alcoholism, diabetes, drug addiction are plaguing our native populations around the country. They're still living in reservations. They're still dying far too young. Way too few of them are reaching adulthood or reaching old age. Far too few of them are given the room in our communities and welcomed into our homes and our lives. These are real problems that are being faced all around our country, but we feel okay about speaking up about Standing Rock because, well, that's an issue that does impact us. It's water. So I guess my rant, my beckoning is get into yourself, see the ways in which you hold yourself above others, even if it's that you think I'm aware of all of this and that makes me better than somebody who's ignorant about it. See that and own it. Own it about the beliefs that you're holding, the status that you're creating for yourself, the pedestal that you've built, and get off of it and get down there in the dirt and have the discussions. And if you see a refugee, approach them if that's a passion for you, and talk to them and find out what is it that they actually need. What do they desire? What do they want? Many of them don't even know what's happening when they get shipped to various places. They don't know where they're going to land. They don't know if anyone's going to like them. They don't understand the grocery store or why meat is packaged the way it is. Have conversations with them. If you're inspired and you want to make a change, the change starts in us. It starts in our homes. It starts in our behavior. You know, one of my friends, my son's friends, his family's from the Dominican Republic. And I watched him grow up and become labeled as a problem child. And yeah, you know, he did have some struggles. He certainly did not understand white community and white values. And yeah, he was loud. Yeah, he jumped. Yeah, he took things that didn't belong to him. He came from poverty. And now the only kids he hangs out with are the few other kids at the school that are also of color. And my son is in that same kind of a boat. He has only a few friends. He's treated like he's different. He's ridiculed because he speaks up, because he speaks out. And I was listening to this comic the other day, and I promise this will be the end and we'll drop into meditation. And we're going to work on this, by the way, in meditation, obviously. But I was listening to this woman comic, and she was a Hispanic comic, and she it cracked me up because she was talking about how basically here we're so focused on this rejection of Hispanics and Mexicans and illegals and blah blah blah, and she's like, yet you guys, you white people, you have tanning booths. You know, and you get to go and you get to be brown for a week. And she's like, where's my whitening booth? I got a job interview and I need a whitening booth so I can land that job. It's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. So we're going to look at what it is that makes us feel elite in our meditation. And that's what we're going to work on. And Shalia, I will see you in a little bit. I'm looking forward to it. And come on back when you're ready. And this is today. This is where I'm at today. Watch the 13th, that movie, by the way, and you might understand a bit more of why I have this passion to drive this point out there. I don't know how many people will even watch this. I watched the numbers drop as the topic expanded. So it's not a comfortable topic for any of us. Okay, so go ahead and take a minute, check your seating, check your posture, check your body. I'm going to take a sip of my smiling coffee. And let's go ahead and come into our bodies. Come all the way into the body, bringing that breath in and exhale. breathing in this present moment, this present space, and exhale. Breathing in and exhaling. I need a few extra breaths to bring me in. And as we breathe in, we're going to breathe in this air that we're all breathing, the same air, bringing it in through the body, feeling it come down through into the roots. And as we exhale, we're going to release the fear, the anger, the frustration, just in this time, in this space, so we can look at it with clarity. As we breathe in, I want you to take in this present moment, this present awareness, this willingness to receive. And as you exhale, I want you to release that which blocks you from receiving, from hearing, from seeing. Breathing in. And exhaling. Breathing in, present awareness. And unhooking as you exhale yourself from the rest of today, from what you have coming up. Breathing in, present moment, present awareness. And as you exhale, unhooking from all that you have had happen so far this morning, anything from before. Breathing in. And as you release, exhale your expectations and judgment from yourself in this time. We're stepping into a state of allowance to look truly at ourselves, free of the judgment that we are bad for any one belief that we hold. Let's do another one of those. Breathing in. And exhaling, releasing our expectations of ourselves to appear or to be a certain way. Better. We're going to bring those roots, letting those roots grow down. And today we're going to ground through all of Gaia. I want you to feel like your tap roots are going down into the center of the earth and sending one tap root into each cultural region of the earth that holds a peoples that are separate from you, whether that's defined by name, by color, by race. Sending our roots into each of these communities as well. Allowing that Gaia energy that is rich with this cultural diversity that is even represented here in our little show, in our little space that we create together throughout the world. And exhale. Feel how that energy is just zipping up through the body already. Feel it like it's in our hips already. We're going to bring it up through the abdomen. Up through that heart and lung space, up that back, up our spine. We're going to bring it all the way up through that throat and neck. And up through the head space. As we allow it to bundle in our crown. Allowing ourselves to send that energy and connect up into Source. I understand that some of you have things that you want to say and to express. You can feel free to express anything you choose. You're welcome to send it to me in a private message if you need. Good. Allowing that energy to come up. Let's go ahead and also release that belief, but it's not me. I'm not the one. I don't. This is how I don't. Just start releasing these in this time and in this space. Feeling that connection into Source consciousness. I know a lot of us are struggling with it today. So I'm going to really highlight that connection space and open it up as you seek into that Source consciousness. Now up in Source, let's just go ahead and allow a release of all that we're ready to let go of. All that came up for us of our own feelings of disempowerment or our own feelings of belief or justifications, validations that are just ready to go already. Just release them and allow Source to take them so Source can understand what this separation wound feels like in its entirety. What it feels like to be separate from, to be less than, to be more than, to be better than, to be worse than, to judge, to conquer, to divide. Send all of that up into Source. Everything that you feel, this anger, this fear, this resentment, tell it to Source so it understands its creation. I've had many yelling exchanges with Source. Trust me, it can take it. Your cries out of injustice. All those who died because of the separation. Send them up into Source, that awareness, that knowledge of what it is to witness. Make sure you're breathing while you're doing so. Releasing. Our memories of all those that died, trying to speak up, trying to send out this awareness, this knowledge, this separation, the struggle. All those who've been imprisoned out of our fear, our ignorance, our intolerance, our acquiescence. Just sending these awarenesses up into Source. This is what it is to be divided from ourselves. Good. That was beautiful, you guys. Let's go ahead and bring down how Source sees us as individuations. How Source intended, what its intention was behind the separation, behind the divisions, behind the elitism, the domination and inferiority. Bring that down, that awareness and understanding down through the vessel. When you feel it bundling and clogging in areas, just bring more down. And send that understanding and awareness, that wholeness even in the division, down through our roots and out into each of these communities that we once believed ourselves to be separate from. Each of these spaces. I want you to call up a mirror in front of you. A mirror of judgment. A mirror of separation. With that filter of truth. And I want you to look in that mirror and call into focus your pedestal. All the things that make you feel separate, that make you feel better than, that make you feel above. Just begin to construct that pedestal so you can become aware of it. In allowance, not in judgment of self, in the sense that you view yourself as bad for having the pedestal, but in allowance. When we go to take a bath, we don't judge our body for how dirty it got. We relish in the act of cleansing. So we're not judging our pedestal for how high or how wide or how white it is. We're relishing in our ability to see what's time to deconstruct. Around the base of that pedestal, I want you to call into focus those you separate yourself from, whoever they may be. Whether they're the unawakened, the sleeping, the ignorant, whether they're the white racists, whether they're the Trump supporters, whether they're the Trump haters. If you're in another country, whatever that dynamic is that's going on in your country, this is happening all around the world. See around that pedestal with which you put yourself on all of those that you've separated from. that you've risen above. And invite them to start deconstructing your pedestal, brick by brick, piece by piece, belief by belief, as they show you how they actually are no different. They're only looking at one side of the block when you're looking at the other. Allow them to take those blocks away and put them in your arms so that you can hold them, instead of stand upon them. And feel the weight of your pedestal. And once you have learned all there is and looked at that block from every side and talked with that one who has handed it to you about all that they have, release the block up into source. Put it up into source, just like you're feeding into the machine, so that source knows this belief. That's what we're here for, is we're learning for source, for ourselves, for our whole. Just like in the Pink Floyd wall, let's tear down these walls. That we thought protected us. Continue this process until there's nothing left but you and all of those others. And I'm going to hold space while you do that. And I do that. Remember to breathe. And shine that light of source down upon you and all of those that are around you. Shine that light so bright that there is no longer a division between any of you. You are all one in the light. As we bring that light in, those all in, away from the mirror that is outside of us and in to our hearts. We're going to take this work one step deeper. I want you to imagine your DNA. See that double helix before you. And call into focus all sections of this DNA that are holding beliefs around elitism. Call into focus all trauma that is on that DNA Our DNA gets encoded with traumatic experiences, and it literally looks like debris clogging up the gene. Call all debris into focus that is in relationship to the work we've been doing today. And imagine that you have a scrub brush and a bucket. And you just are dipping that brush into the bucket, which is full of pure source water. And cleanse the DNA. Cleanse this trauma that we've been carrying for generation after generation for the last 20 some odd thousand years. Cleanse the DNA of this generational trauma of the separation wounds. Allowing that waters, the soap, the water, the debris to flush down into Gaia. Gaia knows how to handle this sort of debris. She deals with this all the time. She is the Great Mother, holding us while we weep. Imagine you're pouring that bucket over the DNA, rinsing and cleansing it of all of the traumas that you've endured in your life that you no longer want to be defined by. Now, just like when we go up into Source, we're going to take that strand of DNA all the way up into Source and plug it in to be reprogrammed with total awareness and allowance of unity consciousness. Just like a turkey baster timer, just let that pop back out when it's done. As Source reprograms you for your new expression. And when you have your strand of DNA back, you're going to plug it into your heart. Feed it into the heart chakra with total allowance that from here, this frequency of your reprogrammed DNA is radiating out through the body, reprogramming, reattuning all the DNA throughout your system, every single strand. And as you do so, we're going to call in the angels that are here to support us with this work in remembering our unity, and ask them to release the waters of creation to wash clean the debris that has held us or infringed us in any way from being in one with each other. As the DNA is shifting, what's being released through the body gracefully and safely is being flushed down through the vessels, down through our roots, and flushed into Gaia to be recycled and turned into something beautiful, composted. Go ahead and stay in this space for as long as you choose. Allow those waters to flush and to cleanse. I'm going to go compose myself. I love you all. Thank you. for showing up, for listening, for doing this work. It was really an honor to witness.